I'm Nadine Brandes, the author of Fox, Romanov, and the Out of Time series, and it's about time I did a My Favorite Books video. Why have I never done this before? I get asked at least once a week, Nadine, what are some of your favorite books? And I always just kind of avoid the question, because how can you ask an author and a reader what their favorite books are? That's like the number one question not to ask readers, because we're just gonna crumple up and cry. But I thought I'd give it a try. This was gonna be my top 10 favorite series ever. But then as I was collecting my series for this video, I realized I'm a terrible bookworm. I haven't finished that many series. It's so shameful. And I felt like I can't say a series is my favorite unless I've actually read all of the books in it. That seems fair. So anyway, so this video is now titled My Top 7 Favorite Book Series So Far. Favorite is a loaded word. So let's do some criteria. What makes a book a favorite, Nadine? Number one, if I have read a book and some time has gone by, like a year, and I still remember the names of the characters, then that series can be considered for the favorites list. Number two, if I have reread this book, rereading is a big deal. It takes a lot of time. Then that is also a criteria that can let it be on the favorites list. Number three, it has to affect my life somehow. I don't expect this to be the same for all bookworms, but personally, when I read, I like to leave affected by a book. I like it to affect my life or grow me as a person. Bless you. Or make me think really hard. Now, don't get me wrong. I definitely read books just for entertainment and just for escape and just for the story. But the ones that stick with me and can then be considered for the favorites list are the ones that affect me deeply. Number four, and this one's kind of a bonus. I have to love it so much that I will read it to Mr. Ninja, my husband. I read books out loud to him when we road trip. We road trip a lot. I've read him probably 30 books out loud, and not thin books. You are so vocal. So if a book has been read to Mr. Ninja, it's probably one of my favorites. Without further ado, number 7. The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. Book number 1 is called Cinder. These are dystopian, futuristic fairy tale retellings. They're amazing. They're amazing. I've read Cinder like 4 times. Also, I'm really proud that I've actually finished this series. The last book is over 800 pages. I discovered this series when only Cinder was out. And so it was one of those times where I actually read the series as the books came out. Usually I wait until all of the books are out because I don't have the memory span to remember a book and then wait a year for the next book to come out and remember all of the important details. And I think it was the first fairy tale retelling that I had ever read. My 6th favorite book series ever is The Mark of the Lion series by Francine Rivers. First book is called A Voice in the Wind. These books. These books are phenomenal. I've reread them several times. I have not read them to Mr. Ninja though. So these are historical fiction set a little bit after Bible times, like 73 AD, right after the fall of Jerusalem, and it follows a Messianic Jewish girl who is taken captive by the Romans and turned into a slave in a Roman household. And oh my stars, there are gladiators, there's forbidden romance, and there is so much faith in this book. This is the type of book, every time I read it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to love Jesus more. I just want to be better at loving Jesus because she's so inspiring and so humble, and those are things I want to be. Holy power of fiction. These are amazing. They were definitely inspired. Number 5. The Unblemish Trilogy by Sarah Ella. These books have a little part of my heart, you guys. So these are a portal fantasy where Eliana, the main character, has this giant birthmark on her face that she's so self-conscious about. And she lives in New York, and then she finds this portal to another world where that birthmark may end up being the key to saving that world. Sarah's writing is not only brilliant and beautiful, but it's hilarious. She always makes me laugh in her writing. Her dialogue is so great. Whenever I read her books, it makes me want to go write. And that is the best feeling in the world. It inspires me to go be a better writer. So, everybody check out this series. Number 4. Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. I've actually read Lord of the Rings 3 times. The first attempt, I was 14. The movies weren't out yet. I made it to Elrond's council and promptly gave up. Anybody else? Anybody else with me? That chapter is like a bog of words, and I drowned. I finally pushed myself through because my older sister was like, it's amazing, you should read it, they're the best. That's what she really sounds like. And I couldn't be outdone by my sister. So I read all 3 of the Lord of the Rings books, and I had no idea what went on in that story. That was a big book. It was this copy too. As you can see, it is duct taped. Then the movies came out. They saved me. I loved the movies. I decided to read it again. Now that I knew whose name was connected with who and what was going on in the story, then I got married. Mr. Ninja and I adore the movies. On one road trip, we decided it's time to tackle Lord of the Rings. So I read it out loud to him. It actually took us like 1.5 years of road trips to get through this tome, and we loved it. So much that it is our family fandom. The decorations in our baby room are inspired by Lord of the Rings. I call my child Halfling. So as you can see, it made a huge impact. Lord of the Rings was kind of an interesting journey, but it's definitely one of my favorites. Number 3. The Blood of Kings trilogy! I only have 2 books because I lent out book 1 to a friend. They're so sad without the first one. Fear not, I have another copy. Okay, these are exclusive hardcovers that I just got in the mail of the series because I supported the Kickstarter campaign for these books going into audiobooks. And this is one of the first times that I really saw how fiction could grow my faith. So the first book is called By Darkness Hid. It's about a boy who really wants to be a squire, so he's training to sword fight, and he, to learn how to sword fight, is pitted against the king of their entire world. That doesn't go very well. And it's about a girl who dresses up as a boy to avoid an arranged marriage, and oh yeah, they happen to have magical telepathy set in a fantasy world. It is filled with all sorts of adventures, all of the things that I love in fantasy. This was my first time reading fantasy that was faith-inspired that wasn't Narnia. And this actually made me want to write fantasy. So these books really launched me into being an author. And then what's amazing is my first contract was with the same publisher that published these books. And now Jill and I are friends. And I'm like, I was a fangirl before I was your friend. It's the coolest. Number 2. Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, who was not impacted by this series. I walked into Barnes & Noble, picked up this book to read the first page, and I left Barnes & Noble 8 hours later. I finished the whole book in the bookstore. These were my first books that I'd ever read that were written in first person, and it felt so personal. I almost cried in the first chapter. And I've never cried reading a book, ever. So the fact that I even almost cried was a big deal. These are also what inspired me to write dystopian with my first series, A Time to Die, the Out of Time series. I set them in a futuristic world because I was inspired by Hunger Games, not to copy it, but to think actually beyond the present day. Okay, lastly, number 1, I bet you guys can guess. What's my favorite series ever? Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Harry Potter! These ones are heavier because they're hardcover. Harry Potter, the British version. So I have a lot of versions of Harry Potter. Anyway, I discovered Harry Potter when I was 13. I counted down the days until those next books released. It was agony. But these books created my love for fantasy. The battle between light and darkness, good and evil, was so powerful in these books, and I still to this day think that this entire series is the most perfectly wrapped up book series I have ever read. Like, what do I say? What do I say about these? Everybody knows about Harry Potter. I can't say anything unique other than I liked them. That's what I do when I meet famous authors too. I'm like, hi, I just love your book so much. And I'm just an idiot. Anyone with me on that? Fun fact, when I was a teen, I didn't realize these were set in England because I was really bad at geography, and I'm like, London, isn't that on the East Coast? Then the movies came out and I'm like, whoa, everyone has accents. I was a bright one. So those are my top favorite series so far. I'm determined to finish the rest of the series that I have on my shelf because there are definitely series that I wanted to put in this list, but because I haven't finished the last book or one book in the series, I just had to restrain myself and not put them in my list of favorites yet. But I will do another video of even more favorites when I've finally tackled some of my TBR. Let me know down in the comments what 5 of your favorite series are. I'm gonna do the same thing to you that you did to me. I'm gonna ask that question that we all hate. But answer it. Tell me. I want to find other good series that I can hopefully add to my favorites list. If you want to keep up on my videos where I talk writing, publishing, and all of the bookish things, please click subscribe or the little bell icon that gives you an email alert every time I post a new video. So with that, tally ho!